What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Across the Board, NFL edition, sponsored by MoneyBall Metrics. We got our normal Friday crew here. You have myself and JD up top. At the bottom, we have Ben and Jammer Betts. Fellas, it is a beautiful day to go over a little UFC, to go over a little NFL, and I'm excited to dive into the slate with you boys. Starting with JD, how are you today, my friend?
Man, I'm doing great, man, and we have an absolutely great slate here.
Amazing slate. I'm going to show all the comments from our boys in the YouTube and on Twitter with Footy checking in. We appreciate Bill, Footy, and Nick stopping in. It's Friday. Everybody's pumped for the show. I am as well, but there's a little bit of unfinished business that needs to get finished today. I believe there was something called a cluck bet, something of the sort from last week. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, Jammer, how are you today?
Fantastic. Riding a 11-1 streak right now on the bets. Swept 3 of the last 4 nights. The Stankies are out of the World Series. Couldn't be better.
Well, I don't have anything to say about that. Ben, how are you today?
Doing well. Coming off 2 back-to-back great days. 9 max plays in a row for me. Going for 10 today. Unfortunately, we won't have any on the show, but because we cover NFL and UFC, which will be this weekend. But stay tuned for that.
More to come for that. Well, fellas, like I said, there's something that has to be done here, so we are going to get... I'm not clucking. Why is this on me? I won. Why am I still on me? Producer, ma'am. What's going on here? I'm not clucking.
JD, you got to do it again.
All right, you ready?
I just did it.
I've already done it too.
You got to keep going. We didn't get to see it first.
I want another cluck. Do it again.
I did it great.
All right, guys. So we're going to just say sorry for that to start with, and then we're going to do that one more time. So 3, 2, 1, cluck back.
That was fantastic.
Right. You know what?
Fellas, we're now going to go into our recap. This is what we're doing. We're getting through it one way or the other. As long as I'm not the one who screwed it up, it's a great day. Guys, Thursday was a fantastic day for me. I'll go into that quickly. I swept the entire board. My VIP cashed, my 2-pack free play cash, so I'm in a great mood and excited to give out more winners today to the boys. Ben, how did you do this yesterday?
Yesterday did pretty good in NFL. Nearly had a sweep, except for Mixon and his receiving yards. Went 4-1 overall, though. Jets, of course, win the game. Crazy game. Like, honestly, it sucked until it didn't suck. Like, the first half was so bad. And then all of a sudden, the game actually got pretty good with that Garrett Wilson. 2 great grabs. Everyone's talking about the touchdown. He had that other one-handed play. That was insane for another one. So, yeah, that was a great game, actually.
We love that. JD, how'd you do yesterday?
Last night, guys, I actually had no bets. I actually didn't really love any extra thing on the board, and it was the last day of the month, so I just took the night off.
There we go.
Now we're here Friday, and it is the first day of the month, and we're ready to go.
Batteries recharged, a fresh JD. The people love to hear that. Jammer, how'd you do yesterday?
Easy 2-0 night. I think a couple of us were on the Jets. Enjoyable ending for us there. And then I had one bet in the NBA, James Harden over 15.5 rebounds and assists, cash in the first half. So nice, easy 2-0 night.
Jammer, seems like you're absolutely tearing up the start of NBA season. Every time I talk to you, it seems you're coming in off some kind of sweep, off some kind of big night. So keep it up. I know that people appreciate it. You guys can jump into Moneyball Metrics. Jammer's been posting his NBA in there, and he's been absolutely killing it. So make sure you guys get in on that action. But fellas, we're going to go right into our UFC segment. So, Ben, it's what everyone wanted. It's just me and you, brother. We're getting into UFC action. So I know you have a couple plays on this. I know you're going to be breaking down the main event, maybe another best bet for us. What do you like in the main event? We'll start with that.
Yeah, so the main event's an interesting one because you have Brandon Moreno, who's off back-to-back split decision losses. I thought he fought pretty good in both, but you look at just who he fought. Brandon Rivel, who's now a title contender, and Alexander Pantoja, who that was a championship fight for the belt. The only guys he's losing to are these guys who either were holding the title or are about to fight for it. Like, he's been fighting the best, the top of the top. As far as flyweights go, he's been fighting the number 3 or higher ranked or the title holder pretty much for 5 years now, ever since he came back in the UFC. It feels like he's just been in these very high-level matchups. So I actually think this fight against Amir Albazi is actually a little bit of a step down in competition, to be honest with you, especially when you consider that Albazi, he's riding a win streak here in the UFC, but his last time out, Kai Kara-France, I don't know what the judges were watching. He didn't win that fight. He won a split decision. Almost no one, including myself, thought he even won it against Kai Kara-France.
Agreed.
And now you go from Kai Kara-France, who's good, don't get me wrong, but now you're going to Brandon Moreno, who's good everywhere. He's a volume striker. He has 5-round cardio. He's been in endless 5-round fights. And as far as the cardio advantage goes in this fight, that's actually where I'm looking for this bet, because I do think he's going to win. After all that I said, I preface him to win. But there's a lot of juice. He's like minus 180, and I don't love that. But what I do love is a prop plus 800 to win by submission. I know that Albazi's a great grappler. I get it. He has a lot of wins by submission. Moreno hasn't been really showing off his submission skills lately in the UFC since returning, but he's an amazing grappler. I think people forget just how good he is on the ground. He out-grappled Figueiredo, who was a good grappler at that time. So it's like, I really think he's going to display his grappling, especially late in this fight. If this gets to the 3rd, 4th, and even the 5th round, I think you're going to really see Moreno start to work on that grappling. And I don't think we're going to see Albazi. We saw him slow down in the last fight. I think that he's going to have a big cardio advantage here. So look for Moreno submission. It's plus 800. I love that line for him. I like him to win still. I just don't love the juice.
I'll be tailing that as well. And of course, you like him to win if you're playing his sub, because that means he's still winning. So I love that too. You're right. It's a little juicy at that minus 175, minus 180. So that's why you are the best in the business at finding some value plays. Guys, Ben is the MMA capper for Moneyball Metrics Discord. Get in the Discord. Get Ben's MMA plays, especially his UFC. He's an absolute killer in the UFC. Any other fights you want to break down or any other bets you're going to be taking in this card? I always know these cards after a big pay-per-view, they're a little bit down in talent. Not the best fights, but there's still value to be found on the board. So any other you like?
No, actually, honestly, betting wise, I like this card more than the card last week. Like, we sucked last week. I took a lot of underdogs. And unfortunately, it seems like these pay-per-view and these big events lately have been all favorites. So that's something I got to catch up on, because I keep looking for value with these underdogs. And these numbered events just are not where it's at. It's been favorites for a while now in 2024. So I actually like these fight night cards more, because it feels like you get more underdogs. I know I just took a main event favorite, but I do love Erin Blanchfield actually in the co-main event. She's a very slight favorite. That line's ticked up a little bit. It was a pick'em. She's now minus 130. Still love it at that price against Rose Namajunas. I'm not going to lie, Blanchfield, her takedown accuracy hasn't been great. She went 0 for 14 against Santos, still won with control time though. Her striking's improving. She came into the UFC like a pure wrestler. Like she had very, very basic striking. But you know, even given that, she was able to win a fight without landing a takedown. So that to me, yes, it was against a weaker opponent necessarily, but the fact that she can win a fight without getting a takedown is huge for her. And actually, Bill, I love that. I love Blanchfield to win by submission plus 450. I wouldn't be surprised if it is a decision, because Rose does have decent grappling defense. We've seen it from her time and time again. But I think Blanchfield's just going to keep spamming those takedowns and really get her down, because that is the path to victory in this fight. We all know how good Rose is on the feet. But Blanchfield, I really think she's going to get back to wrestling and be able to land some takedowns in this fight. We haven't really seen it because she got 3 quick subs early on in the UFC. And then against Santos, she didn't land one, still won the fight. So the fact that she can sometimes have her wrestling not work and still win a fight is big for me. But I think she's going to land some takedowns in this fight, get Rose to the ground, and either grind out a decision or, maybe a sub for plus 450. I don't hate that line.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's what we were talking about earlier, and Bill doing a great job finding some value. We're trying to find the best value in some of these favorites. If you do like Blanchfield, I'd recommend getting it in early if you do want to take her straight up and not play any of the submissions or any way the fight ends. She's currently a minus 140 at FanDuel, and I see the line is going up, and up. So the money is coming in on Blanchfield. If you like it, I would get it in now before the line goes all the way up to a minus 150, which by fight time, I think it will be close to a minus 150. But Ben, I feel the exact same way you do. I think Blanchfield's going to get it done. Jersey's finest. She's a great fighter. We should see her get the fight to the ground. And if it does get to the ground, that's where she will win. Is that the only two we're going to be breaking down for this week? Like I said, it's a little bit of a smaller card, but those are the value plays that Ben has found us. So fellas, it's time. We're going to be going into the NFL. So let me get our guys back in here. Time to go over the full breakdown. Welcome back, gentlemen. We missed you. You guys ready to break down some NFL action?
Let's do it.
Let's do it, fellas. First game we're breaking down today is going to be the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Cowboys are coming in 3-4, but they are 3-1 on the road, taking on the Falcons team that's 5-3, but they are 2-3 at home. Jammer, let's start with you. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, so this is a tough one because you don't really know what kind of Dallas team you're gonna get. Same thing with these Falcons. I mean, they're what 5-4, but 4 of their 5 wins are coming from inside the division in that NFC South, which you really don't have any of the tough teams. And this Dallas team, I mean, people shit on them all season long, but like they are playing well against some of the top teams. Like they obviously beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had a close one versus the Niners. They got blown out by the Detroit Lions, but that team is just putting up points on everybody. So it's really hard to put that against them. But I think if there's going to be one thing I'm going to be looking at in this game, it's going to be the passing game for the Cowboys. They have absolutely no run game. They're going to be relying on Dak Prescott to throw that ball, and he's been yeeting that thing all season long. Like he's had a couple games where he's had 40, nearly 50 passes in the game. So for me, I think the best play I'm going to be looking at Dak Prescott over 37.5 pass attempts. This Falcons team has been putting up points, damn near 30 points on per game this season. And I'm thinking that we're going to see this Dallas Cowboys team playing from behind. We're going to have them passing the ball about 75% of the drives. Dak Prescott over 37.5 is my best play in this game.
Ben?
Yeah, so in this game, I think that we're going to see some points. Simple and straight up. You talk about this Cowboys defense, how much they've struggled. Yeah, Detroit put up a lot of points on them. Fair enough. That's Detroit. But they gave up 30 to a still kind of struggling Niners team. And then, even Pitt at that time, that game only ended with 37, but it felt like it could have been a lot more. There was some kind of stalling drives, but we got in the red zone a lot. I think that 37 scoreline wasn't quite indicative of what that game could have been total wise. So it's just like one of those things where their defense, especially with Parsons, who I think is still not going to play this week. At least
he hasn't practiced.
Yeah, the coach said he practiced, but he's not quite there yet. So probably not going to see him until next week. So maybe the last game without Parsons, which when he comes back, fair enough. But DeMarcus Lawrence already still on the IR. And then you still have Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland as true questionables. So it's just like the true heart of their defense is completely missing. And you can see it all over the field. And then you have a quarterback who I love for overs is super, super turnover heady right now. Dak has 6 interceptions in the past 3 games. He's thrown 2 in each of his last 3 games. So when you have a quarterback that's turnover worthy, like yes, he can throw for a ton of yards. He's connecting with CeeDee Lamb. But if you get a pick at midfield, you're going to get a short field for the Falcons. And then you have the Falcons on the other side, who we can talk about. They have one of the best dual-headed backs right now in the NFL with Algier and Robinson. That's going to be huge because this Cowboys team, we're not even really talking about it. They're 29th in yards per play allowed, 6.2 yards per play allowed. They're 31st in rushing yards allowed. So, yeah, that keeps the clock moving. But I think that Algier and Robinson will absolutely feast on the ground against this Dallas defense, still without their 2 best edge rushers. So I just think we're going to see the ball moving a lot in this game. This is the only game on the slate this weekend that has a total of 50 or higher, and I think there's a very good reason for that. So give me the over 51.5.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way you do. It's not a best bet for me, but I'm all over the over here. Surprisingly, which one of these 2 teams has been the better over team this season at 5-2 on the year? Do you think it's the Cowboys or do you think it's the Falcons?
Probably the Falcons.
Falcons.
Right? You would think that. It's not. It's the Cowboys. The Cowboys games are playing significantly to the over this year. Like I said, 5-2, which is 72%. The Falcons have done a good job at playing games to the over as well, but it's 4-4, so they're a 50% over team. I do think both teams with the injuries they have on the defensive side is really going to impact the scoring in this game, and that's one of the reasons I love the over here. You take a look at the Cowboys injury report. It's brutal. Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, Darren Bland, Nick Vigil. It's all their core guys on the defensive side, and as well as DeMarcus Lawrence, who's not even on the injury report because he's on the IR. On the other side, starting linebacker Troy Anderson for the Falcons. Other linebacker J.D. Bertrand, both probably not going to go, as well as Or Horobo, one of their starting D tackles. So they have a lot of guys, both teams missing. I think that's going to lead to a lot of points. Both these offenses have big play capabilities. They can take the ball over the top on a defense at any time, and I think we're going to see a very high-scoring game here. You just take a look at how both teams' recent games have gone. The Falcons against Tampa last week, we all saw what happened, 31-26, a ton of points there. Cowboys last game, 30-24 against San Fran, and San Fran had none of their offensive weapons. They were still able to put up 30 points, so I think we're going to see a lot of points. Give me that. Not a best bet, but maybe it'll get there by the time we get to the end of the show. JD, what do you got?
I've been actually looking at this line actually like all week, and the Falcons are actually only like 3-point favorites here. And I've been looking at it and just trying to figure this actual game out here. So with them being 3-point favorites, that tells me that the books are saying that the Cowboys are obviously going to score here. And with that being said, with all the stats and everything Ben just said, I'm actually not going to say them all here again, but the Falcons are actually definitely going to score. So for me, I'm seeing the game just actually like y'all. This is a clear actually overplay. I will say the total has actually been coming down. And that's why I have not played it yet. I believe it's at 51.5 currently.
Yep.
We could see a 51. We actually may not. We actually really shouldn't. But for some reason, the under has actually been being hit down. So I'm just going to sit here and wait. But the over will actually be a play, though.
Love it. So more to come on that. Where can they find that play, JD, if they want to wait till the final line you get it at?
In the MoneyBall Metrics Discord.
Damn right. You are damn right. That is where they'll be able to find it. Fellas, let's break down the second game we have on the slate, which is going to be the Fighting Jim Harbaugh as the LA Chargers taking on the Jameis Winston Cleveland Browns. We all saw what happened with Jameis Winston last week and this Cleveland Browns team. They upset the Ravens in probably the biggest upset of the year so far. They won that game 29-24. On the other side, the Chargers are coming in off a thrashing of the Saints 26-8. But JD, I feel like we've said this for a while on the show because, originally it was just the two of us. Chargers against the Saints. I mean, the Saints defense has been a disaster. I don't take anything away from a team that beats up on the Saints. I don't think they're a good team. I think everybody remembers at the start of the year where people were saying the Saints were going to be a Super Bowl contender. They started off so hot. We weren't too big of a fan of that, and it's been proving out like that for the rest of the year. We'll start with you, JD. What do you like in this Chargers-Browns game today?
I do have to start off here with saying the Browns last week played a great game. That was really a great game. And for our actual crew here, that was a big game for us. The Browns, we gave them out at a plus. I believe we gave them out early at a plus 9.5. That was the biggest unit play that actually we have ever done by actually far. Probably will never have a play actually that big. So yeah, that was just a really cool game. Just a nice sweat-free win. Like actually that. But then now coming into this week though, the look headline here was actually Chargers minus 3.5. So even though the Browns actually last week played actually great for us, I think the market is a little over. They are actually overvalued now, just off of that 1 week. And with the line coming down to, Chargers are down to 1 or either actually like a 1.5 now. To me, that's just the move right there is definitely it's actually just too actually big. As far as the Browns defense, they're going to be out a couple of key guys here, which that's going to be a big deal. And then as far as the Chargers offense, they have everybody back now. And so to me, just to put it simply, Chargers, just everything points to them here. So for me, the Chargers line is very cheap. Give me them on the money line at minus 120.
JD, I'm not going to take up too much time. You stole everything I wanted. Excuse me. Everything I wanted to say there. I'm all over the Chargers and the money line in this game. There's no Footy's been posting in the chat looking for some player props. This is not a game that I would target for player props. The only one that I have in this game is going to be kind of contradicting my bet. I am taking Jameis Winston over 1.5 passing touchdowns. You can get that at a plus 160. I think that the Chargers will win this game somewhere in the 28-21 range. There will be a little bit more points than people think will be scored in this game. Chargers still get it done, and the only player prop they're like is going to be Jameis Winston over 1.5 passing. I don't think they want Nick Chubb to get banged up in the red zone yet. We saw that last week. I think they're going to try and work him back slowly, not just get him in all those red zone carries, and they are throwing the ball when they get down close to the goal line, which Jameis does a good job. But Jameis also turns the ball over a lot, so he may get 2 touchdowns. He may also have 2 to 3 interceptions as well. So give me the Chargers as well as the Jameis Winston prop. Jammer, what you got?
I'm right there with you guys. I love fading this Cleveland Browns team. Obviously, as a resident Steelers fan, I love seeing them beat the Ravens last week. That was great for us over here in the Berg. But this week, it's just we're fading the Browns. It's going to be the Chargers money line, Chargers -2.5, whatever you want to take them at. I think that this game's not even going to be close. It's just going to be the healthier side versus the team that has no health. I love Jameis Winston. He's a very fun quarterback to watch. Another one that we're going to be talking about, Joe Flacco. These two guys are just reinstilling the confidence in these older quarterbacks, that didn't get a chance to keep that starting job for their team. I enjoy watching them, but I just don't think I see them pushing their team to a win. So for me, the only play in this game is going to be the Chargers money line. Another play I was looking at was going to be J.K. Dobbins under his rushing yards, but JD mentioned it. There's some injuries on that defensive side for the Browns. They're missing their leading tackler on the season. They have held every rusher this season to under 70 yards outside of Derrick Henry, who is obviously the king
Derrick
running
Henry
back this year. He had 73 against them last week. The number's right there. It's 71.5. It's tempting to take, but them missing their leading tackler is a tough one. Plus with the game script, which we're predicting that the Chargers should run it up on them. They'll be running the ball at the end of the game. It's a little too much for me. So the only play for me is the Chargers money line or the -2.5, whatever you got it at.
I respect it. Ben, close us out on this game. What you got?
Well, it's not going to be a show sweep on this game because I see this one a little bit differently. I think that the Browns played some inspired football. Sure, it was one game. Like, you can't take away everything from that game. What you can take away is a very tangible energy shift on the sidelines, in the stadium, among everything. Like, I mean, Jameis Winston literally went on in an interview after the game when Deshaun Watson got hurt because there were fans cheering. Like, just from the fan base, the sidelines, everything in the team, in the locker room, it felt like an energy shift, and it showed on the field. It's not like it was just, they lost the game, but, oh, we played great, or, the energy's up. No, they won the game. Like you said, one of the biggest upsets this season. And now they're playing at home again. It will be interesting to see if it correlates. And, of course, Jameis Winston is turnover worthy. He didn't have a single pick in that Ravens game, which was key because it was a close game. It was a one-possession game. If he would have had a turnover, which he usually does,
I mean, if Kyle Hamilton could catch, we all saw at the very end of the game.
He had a few. So Winston got a little lucky. He threw a few under. He threw a few under receivers that DBs just weren't turned around on and stuff like that, and then a few that went off hands. So yeah, he got a little lucky. But for a guy that's known his entire career, we all know he can sling it. No one's questioning whether Winston has an arm or can sling it. He threw multiple 4,000-yard seasons. He had a 5,100-yard season in Tampa.
Mentioned the 30 and 30.
Yeah, it was always the picks for him. Always the picks. So the fact that he didn't have one and they won last week was great. I'll be interested to see if he can do that again this week. I do think, however, I'm not super confident in the Browns. I see it a little bit differently. I think they can pull out this game as a near pick 'em. But my favorite play in this game is actually going to be Nick Chubb to go over 54.5 rushing yards. This line's kind of going all over the place. But he had 52 last week against the Ravens. His carries, like you said, Alpha, they're not using him quite in the red zone yet. But they are working him back in. He only had 11 carries his first week back. He had 16 last week. And now they're going up against the Chargers defense. It's much better in the secondary. They actually aren't that great up front. They're actually 25th in yards per rush allowed. Last week, he nearly passed this line against the Ravens defense, who is excellent against the run. The Ravens allow the second least rushing yards per attempt in the NFL. Their weakness is their secondary. Now they're facing kind of the opposite because now the Chargers have a worse run defense and a better secondary. So I do think this is a good matchup for Chubb. I think he's going to near 20 carries. And if he does, he's going to easily fly over 54.5 in this matchup. So that's my favorite play in this game.
All right. Love it. Well, we have a couple different plays on this game. I was going to ask you one question about the quarterback and about a team's faith, but we have another game that I think is more prevalent for that. So I'm going to hold that, but I do have a question for Ben coming up in a little bit. Let's keep it moving right along, fellas. Next game we're breaking down today is going to be the Rams taking on the Seahawks. Rams coming in 3-4, but they have yet to win a game on the road. They also look to have some pretty bad news yesterday. It looks like Puka Nacua re-aggravated an injury. We're not getting a ton of information on that yet, but he did re-aggravate the same knee that forced him on the IR. So normally that isn't a good sign. On the other side for the Seahawks, this team has been spiraling the other direction. They are losers of 4 of their last 5 games. On their injury report, it's pretty lengthy as well. The biggest name on there is DK Metcalf. Looks like he is a true questionable. We're waiting to see if he practices today, but he's the big questionable on the Seahawks side, and Puka Nacua is the big questionable on the Rams side. He's a true questionable now, but truthfully, I don't think he's going to go. JD, what do you like in this game?
You know, this game, I'm seeing a lot of people are thinking, or starting to think actually like this is going to be a Seahawks actually like buy low spot, and I just don't see it. I think as far as currently, they just are that actually bad. You know, and actually see, you know, this is something that I've been thinking of here. And Geno might be the worst quarterback ever.
Yep. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, like so. Yeah, you're gonna get what you're gonna get there. But you know, the Seahawks were actually favored here, and actually then this line flipped, and that says a lot. Especially them being the actual road team. That there says a whole lot. And speaking of them being the road team, as far as the Seattle actually home field, it just doesn't seem like it has the same thing now. It just doesn't have that.
Right.
You know, for me, this is a situation that falls into as far as the line and everything that is like done here. Over the last 5 years, this fits into an actual spot. Like I was saying, as far as actually ATS, it's hit 77% of the time, and has an average win margin by actually 7 points. This to me, like I actually love this actual Rams actually spot here. They have the better QB, they have the better coach. They just have the better just actually like overall team. So yeah, give me Rams on the money line. You can actually get that currently now at -110.
Yeah, I lean the same way you do, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Short and sweet. This is the one game this week. There's going to be no play for me. Like I said, I do lean the Rams, but I do think that might be a bit of an overreaction after their big win against the Vikings last week. I think it was just a big performance by the Rams last week. I don't think this team is the same. They're not going to perform that way every single week. I think they just did play a little bit better than themselves. And if Puka Nacua is not able to go, okay, here comes the Vikings fan choking. But if Puka Nacua can't go, I don't think this team's going to be able to really move the ball. Cooper Kupp did not look great in his return. He still looked pretty banged up. He was not really able to get into open space. So for me, sometimes no play is the best play. Ben, what you got?
Yeah, so I agree. I mean, I would lean towards the Rams as well. I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys, especially you, Alpha, because I don't really have an actual play here. I do lean the Rams.
Oh, wait. I'll do the thing.
Yeah. Do it again. Perfect.
There we go.
But I do lean the Rams for kind of the same reasons as you. Like, yeah, if Puka was in this game, I think it'd be different because we saw last week how good they are when they have the healthy receiving core. But without him, you just take another sting out of that offense. And the Seattle defense isn't great. But the reason I'm really not playing the Rams series is because you never truly know what you're going to get with the Seahawks. I genuinely believe they are the hardest team this year to cap in the NFL. Like, they'll come out and blow out the Falcons, only give up 14 points. Their offense looks great. And then the next week, at least in the first half, they looked somewhat okay. Like, it looked like they might hang on, and then they just get blown out of nowhere. It's like their defense will show up sometimes and actually play okay or pretty good even. And then other weeks, it's just all over the place. It's so hard to get a consistent read on this team. So I can't make a strong play against them, especially with that Puka news.
Jammer?
So, I mean, this is one of those tough games. You know, you guys mentioned the injuries. You got DK Metcalf. They have a bye week next week. So, for me, I don't see why you try and rush him back. You know, I get that this is a divisional matchup. The division's kind of up for grabs right now. I think everyone's at 500 or below. So, you know, I kind of see why they would play him. I kind of see why they wouldn't. Personally, I wouldn't rush him back. Then you also mentioned Puka Nacua re-injuring that knee in the practice. So this one's tough to cap here with those big question marks there. I do want to give a shout out, though. We did say Derrick Henry was the king running back. Kyron Williams is getting no love this year, man. He's minus 250 for an anytime touchdown, and his rushing yards are like consistently in the 90s. This guy's been balling out this season. Doesn't really get enough love, but there's just too many question marks in this game. I'm not going to have a play. Let's put out the image.
Run it one more time.
And there it is. I agree with you boys, though. I do think this one is, but JD has an angle. He's been hot, so I wouldn't sleep on JD's angle. We all lean the same way, but There we go. That's the best way to go about that game. Let's keep it moving, fellas. Next game we're breaking down is going to be the Lions-Packers. To me, this is one of the best games of the week. I think to everyone, this is one of the best games of the week. Lions are coming in 6-1 on the year. They're 3-0 on the road. Packers coming in 6-2 on the year. They're 3-1 at home. Jammer, let's start with you. What do you like in this game?
So I was looking last night. There weren't a lot of props available. So I'm going to stick to what was available. And let me just tell you, this one has been automatic, and that is David Montgomery anytime touchdown. I mean, he's hit it every game this season. So what is that? 7 of 8, 8 of 9, however many games they've been playing. The only game they missed was against Ben's Vikings. If you go back into last season, he's hit this in 20 of his last 23. Dan Campbell, as we know, is a man who sets the tone, and I think that they love to use David Montgomery as that guy. Whenever they get the ball down in the red zone, they love to pound the rock right to him. Let him get the ball early. Let him get it in the end zone. Set the tone. Go at their ankles, start biting their kneecaps off, or whatever Dan Campbell says.
I love that.
But
I love that.
This anytime touchdown, -130. I know Jahmyr Gibbs has been hot recently, but obviously last week there was that big blowout. They really didn't need a lot out of David Montgomery, and he was semi-recovering from that knee injury the week before. He might not be getting the touches that he has been recently, but I think it's just been game script and also him.
I agree.
In the game. I think they just love feeding this guy, especially early on in the game. I might even sprinkle on a anytime first half touchdown. So for David Montgomery, I'm loving him to score. Not much else available, so I'm going to stick to what was out there, and that's what I got.
I promised Joe earlier, he asked how we felt about a Commanders, Lions versus Packers over 48 parlay. What do you think about it, Jammer? So Commanders money line and the over in this game.
I mean, we talked about earlier, this Lions team loves to put up points, and we have seen the Green Bay defense kind of get exposed. Their kind of MO on that defensive side is to make the quarterback make mistakes, and Jared Goff just does not do that. He does not throw picks a lot. So for me, I think that these guys are just going to roll down the field, and they might be putting up 48 themselves in this game. Yeah. Maybe not that high, but I do like the over 48 in this game. Who are the Commanders playing this week? Sorry.
The New York Football Giants.
Okay, so we got 2 automatics. Joe, I'm loving that. I'm loving it.
See, the reason I don't find it automatic, I'll go here next. And quickly, Joe, I am on the over in this game. It's my favorite play in the entire week, so I love the over aspect. But one thing I will say, as somebody who is passionately rooting for the Giants to lose every week for the draft stock, this is a week that the Giants can win. They play Washington every single year and split. It doesn't matter if the Giants are the best team in the NFC. Doesn't matter if Washington's the best team in the NFC. Every year, it seems like these guys go 1-1. They played each other earlier this year. The Giants lost their kicker in that game. They would have won the game if they had a kicker, but they had to go for it on every 4th down because they literally had nobody on the field who could kick. They lost that game to Washington, scoring 7 field goals and 0 touchdowns. I'm not saying the Giants are going to win this week, but this is the exact week that the Giants screw up their draft pick and aren't able to get the top quarterback, because this is what they do. They win games they shouldn't. This is the exact type of game that the Giants may win. We're not breaking it down this week, so I'll save you guys the what am I thinking of the word? The misery of listening to me break down another Giants game. But for this one, I wouldn't necessarily love taking the Commanders money line with this over. I'm all over the over, though, so I'll let that out now. A lot of question marks in this game. Jordan Love is a true questionable, but he did practice yesterday, so that does make me think he is going to go. If they practice during the week, normally they are good to go. Another big injury in the Green Bay side is Jair Alexander. He is by far their best defensive player, in my opinion. He's the best cornerback on the team. I know Xavier McKinney has been a great safety for them, but Jair is a true lockdown corner. If he is not able to go with how good this Lions offense has been, I don't think they're going to be able to stop them at all. If you saw the Lions game last weekend, where they played Tennessee and scored 52 points. They took their foot off the gas at 52 points. I believe it was in the 3rd quarter. They could have scored 80 points in this game if they wanted to. They were doing everything they wanted on the offensive side. This Lions team has it clicking on all cylinders. Give me the over. I absolutely love the over in this game, 48.5.
Then passed the ball 12 times last game.
They just had to run it, and they got 90 yards of play. It was unbelievable.
It was.
Yeah, I had Jared Goff in fantasy and thought I'd get like 80 points out of him last week. I looking
at the score, you'd think so.
Yeah, Yeah.
And I also have Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had 1 catch,
Yep.
8 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, at least he had the touchdown.
Jeez.
If he would have just, if he wouldn't have gotten that touchdown, I would have just. To see them put up 52 and check his stat line, I think he put up 11 points or something like that in fantasy. I was just like, are you kidding me?
Depressing. Little depressing. I get that.
For me, it's going to be, honestly a prop that isn't even out yet because of all the injury news for Green Bay. So I can't tell you guys that I'm going to play this because I need to see where this line opens. Said the same thing with Ricky Pearsall last week. It ended up opening a little over 20, still took it. He still hit. That was a good one. So I'm doing that again this week because we don't even have the prop yet. It's still Friday. And we don't know if Jordan Love's going to play. We don't know if Josh Jacobs is going to play. That's a big questionable there because if Jacobs doesn't play, he's been so good for them. Huge piece of their offense, obviously, is one of the better rushing attack teams in the NFL this year. He's kind of opened up that passing game for them. So one of my favorite props here, I'm going to be looking at Jaden Reed. I'm going to be interested to see where he opens because I do expect the Lions to be scoring a lot in this game. It's going to be how much can Green Bay score because this Detroit defense, it's so weird because on paper, they are not good. In fact, no one in the NFL gives up more receiving yards to wide receivers every game than the Lions. Their secondary is not good. They're giving up 210 average yards to wide receivers alone, not just passing yards. That's to just wide receivers. So they're not good in the secondary, but they're an opportunistic defense. If you kind of get what I mean by that, they make big plays when they need to, but they give up a lot of chunk yardage too. So it's really a hard game to cap style wise for me because there's a bunch of injury news, especially Jair Alexander for the Packers. Yet the Lions are only -2.5. Like this feels like a game that they would be able to win by a touchdown, but this line, especially in a divisional game, feels a little tricky. So I'm going to be looking at that Jaden Reed prop. I really think out of the slot, he's going to be their best option. The Packers also have some offensive line issues here, maybe with some injuries. So out of that slot, if they're going to look at some short routes for Reed, I'm going to be looking at either his receptions or his receiving yards. Because if his receiving yards opens really high, I'm just going to take his receptions.
I respect it. And let me tell you something right now. This is how I feel about Jaden Reed. I had a 9 touchdown anytime score last weekend.
Was he the only
8 of them cashed.
Oh,
and
no.
Stupid Jaden Reed did not get in. So he's on my shit list right now. I'm a big Jaden Reed guy, but right now he's definitely on my shit list. JD, what do you like?
This week I've actually heard a lot about this being actually like a trap line. I've been hearing a lot of that. And I don't really know what to really call this besides like almost like a fake actually trap line. But the Lions are just a really good football team. And even though it's this late in the season, I still don't think the market just really knows how to price them. And then it goes into as far as the Packers goes. And there's only one thing I really have to say about the Packers side. And I've said it week after week after week. Their defense is over fucking rated. This Lions team, before. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run it down their throats. And honestly, I don't think actually this game is actually going to be close. As far as if actually Love plays, the line is definitely saying yes. If actually Willis was to start, I make this Lions -7. So the line is actually definitely saying yes. Actually, he actually will start, which I actually wanted.
Agreed.
For me, this is just with everything going on. I still think that this line on the Lions is cheap. You can get them at actually -2.5 now, and I just think that is so wrong.
I think you're right there too.
Yeah, there's just a Lions play actually like all day.
Does it make you nervous though? Because when you see that line in my head, I was like, I'd rather target the over because this line just makes no sense. The Lions, to me, with how hot they've been and how good they've been lately, should be favored by a touchdown. So in my head, the way I went through this game, I immediately turned my attention to the total because the line was too fishy for me to want to dive into it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, to me, I don't really know what to really call it besides like I really think it's like a fake trap line.
Yeah.
So I do have something I did not mention earlier. It's Jared Goff's first game outdoors. He does not perform as well outdoors as he does indoors.
I remember hearing a lot about that stat, especially the last few years. Yeah.
But I mean,
But-
JD mentioned they're going to be running the ball all games.
Exactly.
They're going to be running the
Exactly.
ball because the
Yeah.
weather is actually not supposed to be good.
Ooh.
Okay.
We'll find out, though. We'll find out because last week, all we heard all week was the Seattle game is going to be a disaster. It's going to be raining cats and dogs. There wasn't anything but sunshine and a beautiful day during that game. So we'll see what happens. But these weather people are never freaking right.
Yeah. But yeah, it really doesn't look like the wind is actually supposed to be bad, but it is definitely supposed to be rain. So I just think they're just going to keep the ball on actually like the ground more.
I like that.
And with Goff not having to throw as much, like honestly, like actually he's been really good this actually season with it. So yeah, love them here. So.
Feel that. Well, let's keep it moving, fellas, to my favorite game that we have on the week. This one I said was the best game, but my favorite one that I think we have a big advantage in is going to be the Colts taking on the Vikings. Colts are coming in 4-4. They're 1-3 on the road. Vikings are coming in 5-2. They're 3-1 at home. But the main storyline about this game is Joe Flacco is now the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. And I want to talk about this for a few minutes before we get into our bets. I want us to think back. Any time recently that we've seen a high pick, a quarterback taken in the first 10 that's gotten benched in his second season and come back to that team and been good. Can you think of anybody who's ever been in the position that Anthony Richardson is currently in that they end up going back to and he is successful in that town?
Ooh. We could make, well, we haven't seen it yet, but it might happen with Bryce Young because he's big.
I mean,
There's no.
No.
Yeah, but historically, it's never happened. Whenever a quarterback gets pulled like this and they go with a veteran such as Joe Flacco, their career in that city is essentially over. It's hard to get your mentality back in that city. And for me, Ben, I was talking about this earlier when I said, do you think that Jameis instills more confidence in his team? And I said, there's another game I want to talk about regarding the situation. I think the Colts went out there every week without thinking they could win. I think they took the field and thought, we can't win with this guy as our quarterback. And to me, if you go out in the field and you don't think you could win with the guy who's under center playing quarterback, you're going to lose every time. And I think that was a big factor in why this team put Joe Flacco in there. He instills confidence in the team, in ownership, in the fans, in the players. I think the other guys and everybody around AR just didn't think he was capable of winning. And that's one of the big reasons they went to this switch. Ben, what do you think about that? Do you think that could be the big reason? And do you think that's a big toll on teams when this kind of stuff happens?
Yeah, I just don't know. I think it's hard to kind of grasp what it felt like in the locker room because he taps himself out. It's like, yeah, he could have started again. I would love to be a fly on the wall in that coach's room after the game. Like, what the hell happened there? Like, and of course, in the press conference and everything, he just said I was tired and stuff. But it's like you got to think there's something.
I've never seen that.
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
You got to think there's something else kind of going on. Like someone just told him to say that, like a PR person. Like it just feels like there's something else going on that we haven't really heard about yet, and maybe we never will or anything. But it just feels like an off situation. So I feel like there's something else that kind of prompted that because he wasn't playing well. It's not like he was, AR-15 coming into the season, high expectations. He had a lot of games where he fell flat, and they were in a very close game against Houston, maybe going to win, but it's not like he was absolutely lighting up the NFL. Like Jonathan Taylor's been that entire offense, and Anthony Richardson hasn't been playing that well. So it's almost like a Justin Fields situation where similar in the sense that you have the veteran guy behind, and the Colts weren't necessarily playing horrible. They were doing okay, but Jonathan Taylor wasn't killing it, and neither was Fields. And to their credit, Fields is doing better at the time he got benched. But you have this guy in Flacco that's looked all right, I guess. It's just like something's going on behind the scenes we obviously didn't hear about.
You're such a Vikings stan, bro. You will not compliment Flacco. You are dancing around it fully because you're a Vikings fan. I see right through you with that, by the way.
No, that's not it at all. I don't think Flacco's played well either. But at this point, I think something happened with Anthony Richardson, and they had to have a conversation with him. And now it's just like, sorry, we got to go to the other guy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, true. JD, what do you think?
To what Ben said, saying the PR team may have told him to just say that. I just don't think they could have ever told him to just say that.
I agree.
Because my only take on this is not just for the Colts, but for any team going forward. Like, how can you trust and be behind a guy like that? Like, that's just insane to me.
Yep.
Because that was a third down play, right?
Third and goal.
Yep.
Yeah,
Third and
like,
goal.
how like just that's just crazy to me how you're just gonna literally tap yourself out. Yeah, I actually really don't have much else to really actually say here.
Right? Jamer, I'm assuming you agree with that as well, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, this was the biggest gamble I think we've seen taken recently at the quarterback position. The guy hardly played any games in high
You
school.
know, was it 12 games in total in his whole football career? Something crazy.
Yeah, high school and college, like 12 games total. I mean, you just put the gamble on the guy's athleticism, and you just got to bank on the guy making smart plays. Like you obviously know that the guy can run the ball and can, run over linebackers, and but it's just the decision making, and Ben won't give Joe Flacco his flowers, but this guy has been balling out.
I know.
7-1 touchdown to interception ratio, a 359 passing yard game. I mean, the guy comes off the bench
Against
cold in some of these games.
Jacksonville.
Hey, man, this is the NFL, and we do not discriminate against any other team unless
And they
they're-
lost the game
unless
still.
they're the Cleveland Browns or the Minnesota Vikings. I would love to fade the Minnesota Vikings this week, but I think you just got to go with what you know is going to work in the game, and that's going to be the short passing routes for the Indianapolis Colts. Ben's team loves the blitz more than anybody, and so we're going to have to go with those quick, short routes, and that's going to be to Joe Flacco's favorite receiver, Josh Downs. I like his receiving yards over 57.5. Josh Downs is going to be the guy that's getting those short, quick tosses whenever they're blitzing in that they're going to have to get rid of the ball. Joe Flacco has seen every single type of defense. He's seen every blitz. And so this week, I don't think he's going to flinch whenever this Vikings team is sending their best at him. They don't have corners to cover anybody, but they do have the pass rush, and that's going to be what they're going to rely on defense. They're going to try and get to Joe Flacco, make him make mistakes, and what he's going to do is just pass to his favorite target in Josh Downs, get him the ball, let him get those yak yards, and adding on to that, another one is Joe Flacco over 1.5 passing touchdowns at plus money. I'm seeing plus 130. He's done this in 8 straight games that he's started, even coming off the bench for the Browns last year. In 8 games throughout last year and this year, 20 touchdowns in 8 games. And this season for the Vikings, they've already allowed 14 touchdown passes through the air. That's 27th in the NFL. They've also given up 2+ passing touchdowns in 4 straight games. I don't know if this Joe Flacco-led team can keep it close, but I think that we will see Minnesota up, so we will see a lot of passing. So I like the receiving yards for Downs, and then 2+ for Joe Flacco through the air.
I like it. I'll jump in here next, fellas. My favorite play of the week is in this game. My absolute favorite play is the Indianapolis Colts plus 5.5. Guys, who do you think is the number 1 ATS team in the NFL this year? I mean, I'm sure you can guess by the way I introed that, but it is the Indianapolis Colts. They have covered 7 out of 8 games this year, 88%. They are the only team that is 7-1 in the NFL against the spread. Now you're going to go in there, take out the liability of turnovers in Anthony Richardson, and put in the sure-handed veteran of Joe Flacco. This score is going to be even shrunk than what they originally projected it to be, in my opinion. Ben, not to be too worried for you, I'm not sure that the Colts will win this game. The Vikings very well still could win this game, and they probably will win this game. But if you're going to give me 5.5 points on the Colts, it's absolutely my favorite play in this game. They have Jonathan Taylor back, who's been running well. They're starting to get healthy. And on the other side, I hate to say this, but Sam Darnold has regressed a little bit since the early start of the season. He's still doing a great job, but it seems like he's been great in the first half, and then the second half he starts to slow down and not play as well, and that's continued to play out all season long. So give me the Colts. I think this should be an easy cover for them, and like I said, Ben, you still might get the win with your Vikings, but I think the Colts definitely cover the 5.5. It's my favorite play this week. Ben, here's your chance to go back at me.
No, surprisingly, I'm not. I actually see the game in a similar fashion. I don't see this being a Vikings blowout. Now, it could be a 1-possession touchdown win and they would still cover. But the line feels a little odd to me that you have the Colts who are benching their starting quarterback. They're 4-4 in the season. And then you have the Vikings who, they've lost back-to-back games. But I'm not sure that, this line still feels a little off to me. I would expect them to be a little heavier of a favorite, like close to a touchdown favorite. So I think that there's a little bit of, some odd stuff going on there. I think this is a closer game than people would expect. I do think the Vikings, I mean, obviously the Vikings fan, I want them to win, and I think they will. But I think it has all the makings of a close game, to be honest with you. It's a primetime game. Joe Flacco, I think he's looked better. Anthony Richardson, we were just talking about it. He hasn't played that well this year. Joe Flacco, to his own credit, he won 2 games, but in those 2 games had 168 passing yards and 189. I think this game kind of comes down to Jonathan Taylor, and the only worry for me there is that the Vikings defense has been excellent up front. They're giving up the 3rd lowest yards per rush, and it kind of has been their secondary, like Jammer was talking about. It's kind of that pass rush and that defense against the run that's been kind of holding down this defense. They are a little, weak in the secondary, and I think that's why they're so big on the blitz. To counterpoint myself, Joe Flacco is older. He's up there, and he might not fare well against the blitz. If he gets the ball out really quick, yeah, he'll do good against the blitz, and he could. But I think it's really going to be how that offensive line can hold up, how that run. I really think the first few drives will set the tone, because if Jonathan Taylor can run well and open up the passing game, this will kind of be a game where the Colts really fight back. But if they're just stymieing in that run game and the blitz gets to Flacco early, it could get ugly quick. So there is that aspect too. I don't have a play in this game. I think it's a little too tough for me to call spread-wise. But if I had to pick, I do think that the Colts would actually cover and the Vikings would win outright.
Yep, I agree. The exact same way. JD?
Oh, okay, JD, sorry.
Jammer, no.
Just a quick trivia question for Ben here. What was the last season the Vikings opened up 5-0?
No, we're not doing this on the show. No.
And then what was their final record that season they went 5-0?
We're not doing it. Nope.
I think he knows the answer to this.
I think he does too. I'll just tell the people it was 8-8 and they missed the playoffs.
Yes, I know. Yeah. You know what? That was with Kirk Cousins, and he's dead to me now. So I don't know.
Well, on that note, JD, please take over if there's anybody alive to you in this game.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this really short and simple here. Jammer said it perfectly. You got to go with what you know, and all I know is the Vikings are going to come out and do what they do every single game. They're going to score at least 14 points in the first half.
Hey,
they just do it. Their first half team total, it just keeps hitting. I have to play it again here. Honestly, for this matchup, I just think they score actually like all actually game here. Their team total full game is only actually 26.5. I'm probably going to go over that one too. But the first half, I know for sure I'm actually definitely going to be on there, and I'm just going to leave it there.
I love it. Well, boys, that's going to do it for our 5-game breakdown today. We broke down the MMA with Ben early on. We broke down the NFL action with 5 of our favorite plays for this weekend. And before we get into our best bets, quickly, we do have to touch upon the Ultimate Trial. Get a full week pass for just $7, which I'm sure you guys can do the math. That's just $1 a day. You spend more on your Big Mac on lunch. Get in the Discord. Come win with the boys. It's the best community out there with the best people. We're in there answering any questions, anything you guys need. Everybody in the Discord is there to help you win. Come join, have some fun, and it's only $7. I believe it is pinned on the MoneyBall Metrics page, but you can also DM MoneyBall Metrics to get in there and get the code. Get in, have some fun, and win with the boys. Fellas, you ready for what everybody's waiting for, which is going to be our NFL best bets. Jammer, you've done pretty well when we've started with you lately, so we want to keep you riding hot. Start us off. What do you got?
Let's stay hot. All right, we're fading my favorite team to fade, the Browns. We're going to be back in the Chargers -1.5. I don't care if they're traveling across the country into Cleveland. The dog pound, no one's scared of the dog pound. They're little puppies.
Don't say that to Clee.
I'll tell Clee right to his face. Chargers -1.5. We love it this week. And then we just got done talking about this game. I don't know if the Colts will keep it close. I hope they do for Alpha and his +5.5, but I'm going to be back in Joe Flacco and Josh Downs. I love that Joe Flacco over 1.5 passing touchdowns at plus money. He's been automatic. I think that they're going to be down. They're going to be passing the ball. I know someone mentioned in the chat that Jonathan Taylor is a beast on the ground, but this Vikings defense is tough against running backs, especially in the red zone. I think they've given up maybe 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns on the season. So I think we see a lot of Joe Flacco passing, him over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Josh Downs, the quick, short, yak receiver, over 57.5 receiving yards.
There we go. Ben?
For me, it is going to be Aaron Blanchfield, starting off in the UFC. We covered that one. I know it's NFL best bet, sorry. But Blanchfield, I think she gets the wrestling going in this matchup against Rose. And I believe she gets either the decision or I did like actually, who posted that? Someone posted the plus 450 submission. Bill Norm. Yep.
Early on,
Bill with the submission plus 450. Don't hate that either. Moving on to the NFL, I do like the Broncos actually in this matchup. I think that the Broncos just are one of those teams that are being a little underrated here against Baltimore. We saw it last week. Bo Nix is playing all right. That defense is looking like one of the best units in the NFL. I think this is actually going to be a lower scoring game. And if it's lower scoring, I think that means that I would love to be on the side of a plus 8.5 underdog. So give me the Broncos to cover. I love that spot as an underdog. And then Falcons and Cowboys, we did cover this game. I'm taking over 51.5. It's the highest total on the board this week for a reason. I think that we're going to see a lot of offense in this matchup. The Falcons with that dual-headed running back, they're just going to run it down the Cowboys' throats and score. On the other side, you have Dak and CeeDee Lamb who connect, and then you have Dak who's throwing like 18 picks a game. So I think we're going to see a lot of ball movement in that one. Last one in the game we didn't cover, Chris Olave over 67.5 receiving yards. Derek Carr is expected to come back in this game. I think that's big for this matchup. They're playing Carolina, who quite literally cannot stop the opposing number one wide receivers. Last 5 games, Cortland Sutton got 100 yards. Terry McLaurin had 98 yards. Drake London had 76 yards. DJ Moore had 105 yards. Jamar Chase had 85 yards. They're all covering this line like crazy. These number one wide receivers are absolutely eating against the Panthers. And you're supposed to get Carr back for this game. I think that he's going to connect with Olave, who's been looking really good the last few games.
I like it. I'll quickly jump in here, fellas. I got 3 best bets, all in the NFL, all games that we covered. Chargers money line minus 120, over 48.5, and the Detroit Lions Green Bay Packers, and my favorite play. The Minnesota Bens to lose. Just kidding. Indianapolis Colts plus 5.5. I think that by far is my favorite play of the day. JD, close us out. What you got, my friend?
Yeah, for Sunday, we are going to go with 3 as far as best bets here. Give me the Chargers. Give me the money line there at minus 120. Then go to that Rams-Seahawks game. I absolutely love the Rams here. Give me their money line there at minus 110. Then going back to the Lions and Packers game. That's just another game where the Lions, I absolutely love them here. Give me them minus 2.5 at minus 110. Then I also do have to say, as far as that 7-day or like the week-long thing we have actually going here, this is a great time to actually get that. I'm not a big like max play guy, but I do have a college football max that is going tomorrow. And then our Sunday card, it's not out yet. It's going to be released this afternoon, and I definitely have 2 max plays there.
Let's go.
Here we go. So make sure you guys are in the Moneyball Metrics Discord. As we said, there's a great deal on it right now to get your first week for only $7. Before we get out of here, you know I'm going to throw up the best bet list. I like that the Aaron Blanchfield's in red, but I mean, that makes me think she's going to lose. So I don't know. But you can see what everybody has here. I'm on the Chargers, Colts, the over on the Lions, Packers. JD is on Chargers, Rams, Lions. Ben is on Blanchfield, Broncos, Falcons over, and Chris Olave over. And Jammer Bets is on Chargers minus 1.5. Joe Flacco over 1.5 touchdowns. Josh Downs over 57.5 receiving yards. And the Giants money line over the Washington Commanders. Fellas, it's been an absolutely fantastic week. As always, as I said earlier, we broke down the UFC. We broke down the NFL. I see Jammer throwing his hands up in the back. I'm kidding. He's not on the New York Giants. Don't worry. And guys, it's been a great show. We appreciate every single one of you. We will be back on Monday to see how we did. Oh, wait, we don't have any clock bets. That kind of sucks. Are we opposite on there?
We should have done the 3-on-1.
I'll go up against all 3 of you on the Browns game.
Let's do it.
The Browns game. All right, we got a 3-on-1 clock bet. We are back. That'll be served on Friday by either the 3 of us, which no one wants to see, or by Ben, which everyone wants to see. We'll be back. We appreciate every single one of you. We'll see you guys on Monday. Peace.